Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Beat Your Addiction with John Giordano. I'm your co-host, Scott Jones. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We got a great guest today, but before we get started, we have to remind you that if you like this show, make sure that you click the like button, you subscribe to the channel, and of course, you hit the bell so you can get notifications when we have other shows. And please share it with your friends. If this is something that you think has some worth or some value, share it with us. You could certainly go on John's website, johnjgiordano.com. The J is the initial J. So that's johnjgiordano.com. There's all sorts of ways to get in touch with John and certainly learn a whole lot more about addiction. We can only cover so much in a little bit of time that we have for our show. And there's so much information out there. So please go to the website, reach out and ask questions. And, John's always excited to meet new people, right, John?
Absolutely.
And John's a busy guy, but he always makes time to help people as much as he can. So before we get started with the show, John, just want to make sure you're doing well. Everything's good, brother?
I'm alive and above ground and healthy and doing well.
That's you got to set the bar a little higher sometimes, you know?
I do my best to set it as high as I can.
There we go. Alive and above ground. When you get older, sometimes that's all you can hope for, right?
Listen, I can't believe I'm going to be 75 in August.
75.
I'm as old as you.
No, I think you got dirt beat right now. August. What day in August is your birthday?
27.
Oh, I'm the 21st.
It's not my fault.
That's it. Well, we're both Leos. That explains why we butt heads.
I'm a Virgo.
Oh, see, that's why we butt heads, because I'm right and you're wrong.
All right.
I'm a Leo. Just kidding. All right, let's get back to the show. Again, thanks for joining us. Our special guest today, very excited, is Kim Bellis, and she is the founder of soberisthenewcool.org. And first of all, kudos for just putting it out there and saying it in such a great way. Sober is the new cool. It's not cool to be messed up anymore.
No, absolutely. Sober is definitely the new cool.
So before we get started and you and John start talking, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what sober is the new cool? What exactly is it?
Well, in 2013, my son at the age of 13 started having grand mal seizures. So sports, all his football, basketball, everything was taken away from him. And as boys could be boys, once we figured out like he was going to be epileptic, there was no way that he could have alcohol because he would have medicine the rest of his life. We realized life was going to change and we had to change with it. So I used to tell him, go out with your buddies, and you know how young boys could be, the beer, the this, the that. Well, he didn't quite fit in anymore. And one night I went and said, come on, Matt, you can go out, you can have fun. And as I said it, I had this huge glass of wine in my hand. And I thought, wow, you are such a hypocrite. So I said, I'm going to do something with you. I'm going to stop drinking for 3 months. And after 3 months, he said, see, now you could be like everybody else. I said, okay, do another 3 months. And now it's 8 years later, and I've never touched another drink. And you know what? My life has changed. We're helping people. I've helped him, something that started just for him, because everybody said to me, no, you cannot say sober and cool in the same sentence. It will just not work. And here we are, and we've created this little movement, and we're helping rebuild people's self-esteem, because that's where I think we have to start.
John, that's amazing, isn't it?
I love what you're doing, and it's really cool the way you did it. And, like for myself also, my kids are in recovery also. And they always say to me, Dad, if it wasn't for you, I don't know if I would be into recovery. So setting an example like you're doing, everybody can say, don't do this, don't do that. It's meaningless if you don't do it yourself. It never worked for me is do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
Never worked for anybody, I know. So what you're doing is very brave, and it was very, how difficult was it to quit for the first 3 months?
Well, I have to tell you, that's when I realized that alcohol was not really my friend, because I stopped, oops, sorry about that, my phone's on. That's when I realized that, every restaurant that I wanted to go to, I'd think, oh, that's where I had a martini, or this is where I have rosé with sushi, or everything was like associated. And then I thought, okay, so the first year, basically, I stayed very quiet. I wasn't very social, didn't go to too many parties because, when I did, people would say to me, "Oh, come on, just come here. Nobody's going to see. Nobody, you don't have a drinking problem. Your son's not here. Your husband's not here. We won't tell. Just have one with us." And I thought, wow, if people are doing this to me, and I was 52 at the time, I thought, are you kidding me? This is crazy pressure. My son, he has no option. Alcohol is not an option for him. He must get this all the time. And I thought, no, this just can't be. So I just did it one day at a time. And I kept, I think I loved my son more than I loved myself, quite honestly. So he was always the person I had. Every time I thought about it, I said, nope, I gotta stay true to my Matthew and to myself, and be able to look at him in the eye, knowing I was being honest.
Did you ever get the urges during the treatment?
Oh, yes. And actually, I was pretty good. After the first year, I was pretty good. Like it would come and go. But at year 6, it was the first time we decided to kind of leave my son. My son is now going to be 24. But as a mother, I was a little, let's say, overprotective. My husband and I didn't go on vacations. We stayed home with my son. We were always worried about his mental and physical health. And because we had 3 years being seizure free, and then all of a sudden the seizures started again. So we stayed at year 6. We decided we were going to rent a little cottage about an hour and a half away. And when I had no control over my son or his every move, that summer 2 years ago was the summer that I really had to fight hard not to drink, because I guess letting go was really of the control. Yeah, very stressful. Yeah.
And the lack of control can drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That happens like when my son was 15, he was selling drugs and getting high. And, I found out, I got to him, I said, listen, you're going to do this. Okay, you can't stay here. Okay, so if you stop, of course, you're welcome to my home. So he says, F you, Dad. And he left for a month. Now, let me tell you something. Every day I was like a nervous wreck. Okay, waiting for the phone to ring, telling me he was dead or in a hospital or in jail. And then after a month, he came back. And then He was probably doing it on the side, and I didn't know, but then he got arrested he was part of a group that were robbing houses. So he was the lookout. So when he went to court, the judge knew me because I, do a lot of different clients and stuff like that. And he said, I'm going to remand him to your custody. So I asked the judge, I said, Your Honor, can you please put him on house arrest till I get a treatment center for him?
Wow.
And that's what I had to do. And my son now is 18 years in recovery.
Oh, that's nervous.
But let me tell you something. If for those people out there that are listening to this is not easy. Okay, it's definitely not easy. It's like when the phone rang, I would jump out of bed. It was a nightmare, but it worked out.
Yeah. And even today, when he does go to a wedding or whatever, I still worry, because the social pressure is still there. For me, 8 years later, people still say, have a drink. And I know when he's out, a lot of his buddies will still say, it's okay, Matthew, you haven't had a seizure now in 3 years. Let's go for it. Right. It's just not an option, right? So we worry.
I usually tell people to say, I'm allergic.
Oh, that's brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm allergic. I can't drink that. That's it simple.
Don't you guys, both of you, don't you find it that it's ridiculous that you have to make an excuse for why you don't do something like that?
Absolutely.
Societal pressure and social pressures, you should be able to say, I don't drink, and that should be it. So why is it, we're not even talking about alcoholism and addiction, John. We're just talking about society in general is so ensconced in the alcohol culture, isn't it?
Well, what's interesting? If you really look, being a therapist, I look a little further down the line about what's going on. And the way I see it is a lot of people don't know how to live life on life's terms without some kind of form of medication. They don't necessarily have to be an addict or alcoholic. Okay. But what they do is from stress, they want to relax. And that's the the mode that they chose to do. So it was easy instead of meditating or working out or, eating right and doing all the things that you need to do to have a better quality of life. It's much simpler just to grab a glass of wine or grab a vodka and just drink and sit there and get, stoned, or just leaving where you are, in your mind. And, listen, I earned this. I work hard all day long. What's wrong with having a drink? Some people can have one. People that are addicted, they can't have one. They're still drinking when everybody's going home. As it progresses, that's what happens. So, people say, is alcohol bad for you? I said, it's only bad for you if you misuse it, okay, and you're doing it to get out of your emotional state.
That's right.
You have to look at that. Why can't you do that on your own?
Yeah.
See, and that's, to me, is the way to look at this disease.
And it is a disease.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's genetics also. And people, there's the addiction gene that Dr. Blum, who I worked with, has coined the phrase. It's called, he coined it as RDS, Reward Deficiency Syndrome. And the gene is the DRD2 ALE1 variant gene. Now, just because you have the gene doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be an addict or an alcoholic, okay? Because there's such a thing as epigenetics, which means the social environment can change the gene expression. So not necessarily that you will become an addict or an alcoholic, but if you go down that road, you will be because you're predisposed. So that's some of the stuff that, we write about and I'm into, and almost every podcast we have, I try to get this out there to people because people don't understand this disease. They think it's a moral disease. They think it's a weak will. They shame people because they have it. I mean, it's just lack of understanding.
Oh, absolutely.
What about you with your friends and your family, and how do they look at it that you quit drinking? And
well, at first, they all thought it was just really because of my son, and now they realize all the people that we are helping, because I really do have zero judgment if you make a mistake or whatever, people that reach out to us. And what I believe in is rebuilding self-esteem. So I do this, I make them place their hand on their heart and say, I am safe, I am found, I am funny, I am artistic. And they start to see, oh, wow, I forgot I had those qualities. And then slowly, the mind shifts. And I think alcohol is just a Band-Aid to trauma or to depression or many other things, because there's not just alcohol that people are addicted to. There's gambling, there's tons of stuff. And I really believe it starts with self-esteem. So that's what we do. And I just feel that if I help somebody, they can turn around and help somebody else, because I feel that in the last 8 years, all the people that I've met that are in this world of, recovery from whatever it is, are the most artistic, lovable, sensitive people. They're so creative. They have so many gifts. And I feel that, what? The more love and the more we lift people up, the better people will get. And they'll know they're worth being free of addiction.
Right. Well, let me give you another angle on this. Okay. First of all, if you're genetically predisposed, let's say, right?
Yeah.
So what does addicts or alcoholics do when they get stressed? They use, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now there's other co-contributing factors to addiction other than trauma and other than all those other things, and low self-esteem. And those are, if you have a low thyroid, it could cause depression and anxiety. What do addicts do? They go get high. You can have what is known as leaky gut syndrome, or H. pylori infection in the gut. If you have that, it causes depression and anxiety. A lot of men have low testosterone. Low testosterone causes depression and anxiety. This is all medical stuff. People can look it up online. Okay.
Wow.
If you get depression and anxiety, you're going to look to medicate. And people don't medicate with substances; they medicate with behaviors. Like you said, there's gambling, it's sex, it's shopping addiction. A lot of people are cross-addicted, so they don't realize they may stop the drugs and then they start something else. Another thing is eating disorders, especially for women.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So they start eating, they become compulsive eaters, overeaters, and that causes other problems because they're looking for serotonin and dopamine. That's why we call it reward deficiency syndrome. They don't have enough dopamine and serotonin, so they look for something that's going to boost that. So just a little caveat for you, to take a look at and see how it fits into your model.
Absolutely, because I have so many like young mothers or, young girls from the age of 25 to grandmothers now that are calling me and saying, I've just given up alcohol at the age of 75 or 80 or whatever. And they're feeling great about themselves, but they've lived with this shame for so long. And this would be like fantastic for them to know that it really was never their fault. This was like what you say, it was genetic inside,
Well,
and we didn't know how to treat it.
But you're responsible for your actions, regardless, because people can use that as an excuse also. And, just another caveat, if people are drinking, depending on how much they drink, believe it or not, they can't just stop because they're going to have seizures.
No, absolutely.
Right. So everybody out there, you have to realize that if you just stop, you couldn't have a seizure. It's best to go to a detox center.
Oh, absolutely.
Under medical supervision as you titrate off the alcohol. Now,
Well, that's part of our thing. We don't pretend to be, doctors or therapists. We have a series of different people from AA meetings every night to treatment centers that, will fit the person for where they live or what they're looking for. And we're just kind of like a broker, an in between, and we guide them to the right place, I think.
Well, that's wonderful. You're helping God's children. And
Yes.
that always gives you more karma back into your bank of karma. I believe in karma very strongly. If you do a lot of good, you get a lot of good. If you do a lot of bad, you're going to get a lot of bad.
Yes.
And, if stuff happens in your life that is, not something that's, that's difficult to deal with, what happens is eventually it passes. Everything changes. Nothing stays the same. But according to people that drink alcohol, a lot of them do benzos.
Oh, really?
Valium, Xanax, things like that, because they're the same receptor sites as alcohol. See, in AA early on, in some places still, that, well, if you quit alcohol, you're okay. And a lot of people that quit alcohol actually were doing Valiums and Xanax, to do the same thing the alcohol was doing. And they don't even realize that they're really not clean and sober,
No.
So, that's something else we might want to get out to the audience to let them know, watch out. All you did was switch seats on the Titanic, going down.
Well, that's just it. There's not one size fits all, right? Everybody's got to find, the proper treatment center, the proper psychiatrist or psychologist, and the proper way to get better, and whatever it takes, I think that's what they need to find.
Well, you know what it is. Unfortunately, most people don't know how to find a good treatment center.
You're right about that.
Unfortunately, they're not all good.
No.
People get into the business, because it is part of business also, and really are more interested in the money than the client. And then, I don't know what it's like. In Canada, isn't it socialized medicine also?
Yes.
So,
But here, like in Quebec, if you said you're addicted, it's harder for you to get free treatment as opposed to if you're depressed. Like anxiety, mental health, that's covered much, much easier than addiction. So,
see now, that's another issue. Most addicts, if not all, have underlying mental health conditions that they're
exactly
with alcohol and drugs.
Exactly.
So it does go hand in hand. But
Yes.
it's just another way how not to treat somebody. Because you don't have a mental health problem. You have only a drug problem. What's the difference? And
I think that people really need to do the therapy at the same time. They can't just quit drinking and then think everything's going to be, and for the family also, because it's a family disease also.
Right. Well, see what happens with families, they usually become enablers or they become co-addicted. And they put their lives ahead of the person that's addicted. So they're trapped in this prison of addiction also, along with the addict or alcoholic. And it really debilitates the whole family. When you save one life, you save a whole family. Most people
Exactly.
don't understand that. You know, you release them from all of this, even though they'll still hold on a little bit, but not like they were. You know,
No.
um, it's unbelievable that we're still using the same treatment for 70 years. I mean, it amazes me to keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. We only have a 7 to 8% recovery rate. Most people don't know that.
And the fact that I've been doing this for like 6 years, like pretty full time, because the first two I don't count. I mean, that I've never heard of this. I knew that I could be predisposed to alcohol because we had alcohol problems in our family, but that's about it. That's where it kind of started and stopped for me, knowing. But to hear all these other stuff you're talking about is incredible. Like
Yeah,
everybody needs to hear this.
yes, well, that's why I do it on every show. I don't mean to be redundant, but I know people don't understand this ease, you know? And what happens is, what they don't understand also, when people drink and do drugs, a lot of people drink their dinners. You know, they don't eat as
Yes.
well. So
No,
now
you're
what
right.
happens, their body starts breaking down. Of course, they don't exercise, because who wants to exercise? You know, I'd rather have a martini, okay? Right? I mean, just look at it. I mean, this is the way it is. So what they throw their whole body out of homeostasis. They don't eat properly. All right, the sugar levels go haywire. Especially with
Yeah.
alcoholics. Most alcoholics have hypoglycemia, which causes depression and anxiety, and they don't even know it. Okay, so it's really interesting when you start looking at. See, nobody's looking at the medical component of this. We're all looking at the psychological component, which is an important piece. But what about the other piece? You have to treat
Oh,
people comprehensively, which we don't do in treatment. So that's why I've been
wow.
doing these podcasts with Scott to get this information out there. And I tell people, I do it real simple. I don't want you to believe a word I tell you. Look it up for yourself.
Oh, I was
Period.
listen. Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, I can't wait to really actually look this up and share this with other people that, I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis to give them this information so they too can look it up.
Right. That's why I do these podcasts. This is why I do this, because my son almost died from this, and I don't want any kid. I go to a lot of funerals, unfortunately. I've had kids die in my arms. I've been doing treatment for 35 years. So I've seen everything that you could possibly want to see. Sometimes I get something I didn't see, but very rarely. And I also work with our special forces guys. I do
Really?
trauma work with police officers that have been in shootings and guys coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that have PTSD. All of that stuff goes together, but you got to first look at the whole person. We keep looking at, they got abused when they were a kid. That's true. Okay, but what about the body? The body's connected to the head. We're not looking at the other medical conditions that cause certain states of mind, like depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation, that people try to medicate. And they think it's because of the things that went on in their life. And it's not just that. It's that the body's out of homeostasis, so everything gets out of whack. And if you don't look at all this stuff, you're not going to relate to it. Nobody even knows to look there.
No, because a lot of people do have leaky gut syndrome right now. Like that's like a huge new thing that most people are getting diagnosed with right now.
Isn't that interesting? Right? And then what do you think addicts and alcoholics do that are predisposed for addiction? They medicate.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do. They medicate. And what happens, that causes a problem in the body as well as the mind.
Well, I'm tired of seeing kids and mothers and fathers and families destroyed or die from this. It has to stop. We have to keep fighting every single day for every child, every mother, every father, every sister, brother, cousin, whoever it is, because I think, we just can't give up on this until we get it, farther and farther ahead. So nobody has to suffer.
I tell people there are no failures. Excuse me. There are only lessons. There are no failures. And if you
No,
continue to go, okay, there's always hope. You know, and most
absolutely.
parents get disgusted. They don't want to deal with it anymore. They've been to 10 treatment centers. The kid keeps relapsing and gets worse. He's been to jail. I mean, I'm talking about serious cases that go on and people give up on them, you know? And, you know, when I tell parents all the time, look, you could support them as long as they want it. If they don't want it, there's nothing you can do about it.
No, no. And but then again, you know, like to me, I feel that anyone who tries again is worth helping. Like, you know,
Absolutely.
failure to me is the day you say, okay, I'm not even going to bother trying anymore. I'm just going to get high or drink and that's it, you know? So as long as, you know, you can go back to day one 100 times as far as I'm concerned, and I'll always pick up that phone and I'll always try and help you because I feel that everybody's worthy of, you know, something,
Absolutely.
treatment or whatever it is they need.
Well, you know, see, and the problem is education is paramount. Like, see the things that I'm telling you that you never probably even heard of. Well,
No, no,
somebody looks
absolutely
into that.
not. No.
See, so this is the stuff that I do to get out there. You know, and also it's interesting. I lecture to scientists, I lecture to researchers, clinicians, psychiatrists, and after I'm done with my lecture, they come around me and go, "We never thought of it that way." I said, "Well, how can you treat somebody for a disease and not look at the whole person?"
It's incredible. My mind is blown away right now. Like I'm just going, I've got to share this. This is incredible.
Well, that's why I do this. And if you need any help with that or anything like that, let me know. Call me up.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely willing to help those who are wanting to help other people and help themselves.
yeah, exactly. Because I really feel that, you know, during this COVID, for a lot of people, this Zoom and text messaging, there's been a lot of real connection as opposed to, you know, at least for me and the people that I've, you know, been lucky enough to meet, we've made real connections, not just like, how are you today? And then forget about them and see how they are in 3 months. Like check in on them all the time, give them encouragement, try and find them a better therapist or a better treatment, whatever fits their needs. And I really believe in that, checking in on people every day.
Well, you know, it makes them feel wanted. It makes them feel also that you're not looking at them or looking down at them. That, you know, listen, everybody says, "Oh, if you need anything, call me," you know, but
Yeah.
that doesn't work.
No,
All right,
no.
as you know. Right? So people need support. And
Yeah.
I don't mind supporting people as long as they're supporting themselves. See, we don't get people well. People get themselves well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We give them a guide. And we're not responsible for what they do. They're responsible for what they do. You know, and that's just the way it works. And, you know, I always say this, and sometimes people get insulted, but most of the time, family members are sicker than the person they're trying to help. So, you know, they become enablers. I always tell this story because it was the one that really blew me away. I had a mother that would go into the hood, okay, and get heroin for her son because she didn't want him to get arrested, okay?
Yeah.
And long as he did it in the house with her, she was okay because she said he can't stop, but at least if something happens, I can help him. Well, one day the kid did it in his room, locked the door, and died. And the mother pounding on the door, couldn't get through, you know, and finally did, called the paramedics, and he was gone. So these are things that family members do. Or they just cut the people off completely, no matter if they want help or not. You know, they don't even want to talk to them. So, you know, you got enablers, you got codependents, and a lot of times, you know, with a lot of disease, let's say, for instance, Alzheimer's or dementia, people that are helping those people usually get sicker than that, usually die or get really sick because they become so codependent that they don't take care of themselves.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, so people don't understand this stuff. You know, you're not, it's not your fault if somebody gets sick. It's not your fault. All you can do is be there for people when they want help. If they don't want help, let them go.
No, and it's boundaries, right? There's a point. I know that people say sometimes I'm not do well with boundaries, but you know, you're right. I know that we have to be very careful because it's a fine line of helping somebody and enabling them.
And another thing is people smoking pot at home and saying, look, don't do that, don't drink, but it's okay to smoke pot. Well, it's like you see what you said was, how can I tell them not to drink if I'm still drinking?
Exactly.
Right?
But
So,
there's
you're setting an example. You say, look, it's hard for me, but I'm doing it, so you can do it too.
Well, there's a lot of kids in school that, are diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, and they're doing exams and they're popping pills and they're drinking. That's like gasoline on a fire. That's no good. And it's happening all the time.
I'll give you another little piece of science, okay? Heavy metal toxicity like mercury, lead, antimony, all these different heavy metals cause neural transmission interruption. So the neurons in the brain are not working properly because of the heavy metals, which appears to look like attention deficit disorder and bipolar disorder.
Wow.
So a lot of people have heavy metals. Look at our drinking water. Look what happened in Michigan. Our drinking water is not good. Okay. No. And it's got, a lot of these places have lead fillings. So you have lead in the water, you got arsenic and rice. A lot of people don't realize you get a lot of rice, you get a lot of arsenic. All of these heavy metals cause neural transmission interruption. Now, that might be not the only reason, but that's one of the things that could possibly mimic attention deficit disorder and things like that. We're not looking at this.
No. They're giving people a pill and go home and take it.
Well, it's just like in treatment centers, post-acute withdrawal syndrome. After they get rid of the drugs, they have acute withdrawal. So if you ask a doctor, what do you do for that? You know what they tell you? Time. You know why? Because they don't know what to do. But there is you can fix that. And how do you do it? It's called hyperbaric medicine. That's oxygen under pressure. It was used for the bends, and it was also used for wound healing now. Now they're using it for TBI cases, traumatic brain injury cases, and now also for addiction. I used that 15 years ago. We started doing that.
Really?
Drugs damage the brain, right? So what are you doing for? Talking to it? Try to talk to your cut if you get a cut. Let me know how it heals.
No.
So there's a lot of stuff out there that people don't know about.
Well, listen, my son with epilepsy, they don't know why. At first they said it was maybe football related. Then they said no, his brain lights up like a Christmas tree. And then they said, well, we don't know enough about the brain. So, it's they don't know enough about the brain, unfortunately.
Well, see, they don't know enough about the brain, but there's a lot of information out there about the brain. See, people don't understand. When you do research, it's very expensive. And you got to have an end game. If you don't have an end game, why do you do the research? You see? So the only people that really do really deep research is that want to make money. That's why they do it. Okay? So did you do any neural feedback with your son?
A little bit at the beginning, but like I said, the first 3 years, they thought, he just had it was one side of the brain. So they gave him medicine. It was working. So they just kind of, we kind of said,
my suggestion is, what neural feedback does, a brain is a muscle.
Yeah.
Okay. So if what you do is you get what is known as a QEEG.
Yes.
Okay? That's where they learn what's going on with the brain through electrical impulses.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Not functioning as you know about that already.
Yes. Oh, yes. We've done that many times.
So after you do that, now you know what section of the brain or what part of the brain is not functioning up to optimal. What you do is go get your neural feedback. You need to do at least 30 days. Okay. And then what you do is you do periodically, you do boosters. So what it is like going to the gym, working out, you're exercising the brain and strengthening those parts of the brain that are not functioning optimally.
Wow,
so that's
incredible.
Something you might want to look into.
Because I have a lot of mothers that are also, that are also having children with epilepsy that can't drink, and they are stopping to drink because they were drinking too much from the stress. I mean, it goes kind of hand in hand. Your kid gets sick,
Absolutely.
you get nervous, you have that glass of wine to like calm down, and
Parents get sicker sometimes than the person that they're trying to help.
yeah.
Well, we're getting towards the end of the show. I wanted to take a moment and ask, when you started Sober is the New Cool, Kim, what was your goal, and where do you see yourself heading with this?
Well, to be honest with you, when I started, it was really to prove a point to my son that, alcohol wasn't necessary. And, I think it was really just to show him that there was a different way. And then slowly but surely, it just turned into this massive movement of people I don't know how they found me at the beginning. They found me on Instagram, Facebook, here and there. But I mean, I put people together from South Africa that somebody had said, oh, I think I know somebody else that lives there. And then they found a treatment center for that mother that was helping their son. It's just incredible. So right now, we're just doing this because I really believe we can stop someone from drinking for 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, or a year, we're successful, and we might save a life. And also, I want kids to know that sober is the new cool, that they could be the designated driver. Stand up, stand tall, and be that kid that can say, okay, I'm going to be the kid that's in charge tonight. So get rid of that stigma that you need to drink. And then, you know what? If we can help others get from addiction to treatment centers, we're just there. And for me, the most important thing, I think, if I could see 5 years down the road, is in every addiction center or mental health hospital, I'd like to see that I am, in huge letters with every single possibility of words that are, enable, likable, sporty, worthy, friendly, every positive word under the sun, so that people, when they're there, if there's one word that they could say, wow, maybe that's going to help them. Because I really believe we need to keep being kind and building people up.
I think we could all agree with it. Without that self-worth and self-faith, that it's not possible to succeed. So I hope that works out well too. You have your shirts and sweatshirts for sale. I saw those.
Yes.
Those are awesome. And I want to remind everybody again, you're not just out there trying to make money and stuff. You're donating back into the system to help with mental health care, which I think is wonderful. Tell us a little more about that, just so we can remind everybody.
So it's called the Douglas Hospital Foundation. It's here in Montreal, but they have 10,000 people that go through their doors every day for all kinds of different brain diseases and, addiction, mental health, schizophrenia, eating disorders. They cover a wide spectrum. And seeing as I am in Montreal, and I believe mental health and addiction go hand in hand, that's who we've chosen to give part of our proceeds back to, and, to let the brain heal. And that is one of their mottos, let the brain heal. So we, I guess, believe in that. And, I just want everyone to know they're worthy of having a great life and a happy life.
Wow. I'm actually a little bit kind of gobsmacked over this, because your journey, it didn't start with a crippling illness. It started with just trying to show that there's another way to live, and
by example.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so few people that do that. And I think that if we can, it's the damned if we do, damned if we don't. There's a stigma if you have an illness or addiction or alcoholism. There's a stigma on that. There's a stigma if you're sober because you don't drink and you're not in with everybody else. I mean, enough with the stigmas. Enough. Just be you, do you, and be proud, right?
And for me, I won't drink again because I don't think it's worth that chance of maybe going back to the way my life was. And I feel like not drinking for me is you'll never ever miss another memory. And my life is too valuable, and so are my memories. So
it's almost a shame we have to put a label on not doing something unhealthy. Why do we have to make a justification for not doing something that's unhealthy?
That's an interesting premise.
Yeah, think about that. I mean, it's like, I don't rub cheese graters on my forehead. I don't have to explain that. It's an unhealthy thing. I don't do it. But we have to explain when we're not doing drugs with other people or drinking with other people. It's ridiculous. I mean, if everybody would just look at it that way, right, John? I mean, just think about it.
Unfortunately, people that can't stop drinking themselves try to make other people join their club.
Yeah.
Right? Because they go, well, he did it. How come I can't?
Misery loves company.
Come with me, keep drinking, That's just called life in the big city,
You always want company when you're drinking unless you're down to your last bottle, John.
Anything that you need any kind of help or anything like that, look up everything I've been telling you.
Oh, I absolutely will. And I will pass it along because, I have just too many girls that right now are, I think maybe because COVID is, everything is opening up again. People are finding like, where am I going to fit in?
Right.
And, they're starting to go to backyard parties and people are drinking and doing drugs and they're like in recovery. And that's just a faux pas. It's just not going to work. You got to get away from that. And
you know what you can do if you want, you can get my book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up. It's
Okay.
my life story.
Okay, perfect.
When I went to the 9th grade, I had a mafia family, how I turned $300 into $45 million and all of this stuff and how I almost died. So, if you get the book, you'll read that whole story. I wrote it so I can help people to motivate themselves. It doesn't matter what kind of family you come from. Doesn't matter if you did drugs or not. Doesn't matter what education you have. You can do whatever you need to do if you just keep following your passion and keep going forward and not use substances to medicate yourself to not to feel. So, it's The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up. You might want to pick it up. You might like, son.
I absolutely will. It sounds magnificent. And there's one last thing I'd like to say is it took me till I'm 60 years old to feel and believe that I am enough. So I don't want to see anybody else have to wait to 60.
You look great. So,
listen. That's being sober. That's being sober.
Well, people don't understand. Smoking cigarettes and drinking, your skin turns that ash color.
Yeah.
As you get older, you get a lot of wrinkles. Okay. And, if you want to look good, you got to be good. That's
good. Look good, be good. Oh, I like that. That's my next post.
Kim, we want to thank you so much for your time and congratulate you on a project that is absolutely fabulous.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely spread the word and invite everybody to check it out at soberisthenewcool.org is where you can check out everything that they're doing and certainly get a hold of you guys. If somebody has a problem, they can reach out to you.
Absolutely. Anytime. And thank you. I'm so honored that you had me as a guest. And John, I can't wait to look up all that stuff you told me about.
Always exciting to find somebody who's doing the good work and living an authentic life. So we appreciate that. And again, I want to remind everybody that to check them out. SoberistheNewCool.org. Make sure that you like this program, share it, subscribe, and hit the bell for reminders. And if you'd like more information about John Giordano and the show, you can go to johnjgiordano.com. The J is the initial J, johnjgiordano.com, and check it out, reach out. But for now, John, I guess it's time for us to wrap it up, brother.
That's it.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. For John Giordano, I'm Scott Jones, thanking our guest, Kim Bellis. We'll catch you next time right here on Beat Your Addiction.
All right, Kim.